You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And you have tuned into The Mountain Gardener. This is your host, Ken Lane. We are talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona, and we are officially into the winter season. So I know it's technically a month off. December, what is that, 21st or 22nd is the official winter solstice. But by the trees in my yard, most of the leaves have dropped. And so I've got a Bradford pear. There's a few things left, but it's getting pretty thin. And so you're starting to see that wintry look. This is when those Colorado spruce, the pine trees, the cedars and junipers really do take center stage. Many of them, I've noticed the neighbors, they're out decorating this week. Hardcore. The lights are starting to come on. They've put trees and ornaments on their landscape trees, on their houses. The tree that's on I-17 at Sunset Point, there's a huge juniper. And every year for decades has been decorated. It's in full decoration, regalia. So it just looks, I love the festivities. So Thanksgiving, we're kind of done. We've had the turkey. And now it's just nothing but Christmas parties from now to the end of the year. And then we exclamation point it with a New Year's party. So it's kind of fun. It's a good time to be with family and friends. Enjoy it all. Had the grandkids up for the festivities for this coming last Thanksgiving. And worked just fun to have everyone down. It's nice to have your bedrooms back, though. And get to rest, get back. So as people head back this weekend, back to their homes, get back to school, finish up that last kind of few weeks of school. So this is good. Your landscape, though, don't ignore it just because it's lost some leaves. So right now, this is an important time. It's still warm, but it's cold at night. So you don't want to treat it like you would a Midwest or East Coast type of landscape where you just turn the systems off, you blow out the irrigation systems, and you walk away and you don't think about it till next March or April. Here, our days it can be really nice even in January, December, and it can be really cold. So those plants, they don't truly shut down. So remember to keep watering those things. Not heavy duty. You really ought to cut back on the irrigation, twice a month. Water those deciduous trees, those trees that lost their leaves, that's deciduous. Water those a couple times a month. If it's a really big one, let's say a really established Arizona cypress, a really established sycamore or maple or whatever, water it at least once. If we get a nice storm, the problem is I tell folks if we get a weather front, we'll get a skiff or an inch of snow, and they'll think, oh, it's been watered. I'm all good for the month. An inch of water is hardly anything. It takes 7 inches of snow to equate to about 1 inch of rain. 1 inch of rain will penetrate approximately 6 inches of soil. So about as much snow as you see will go into the ground. And so you have a big tree. It's got a root system that's 2 feet deep, 18 inches. A brand new 15-gallon tree's got 14 to 16 inch depth of roots. So you'll want about 15, 16 inches of snow to penetrate that entire root zone. Well, we never see that. It's just so rare. We don't see storms come through like that. And so that's why it's important to keep the irrigation water by hand if you need to. If your gardener turned off your drip system and they blew it out and they disconnected your backflip preventer so it won't break, well, take a hose once a month and go water things by hand, the old school, old-fashioned way of doing things with a hose. So it's important to keep things healthy. I'm going to go over later in the show the top evergreen shrubs, and I've kind of broken these down by evergreen vines, tall evergreens, medium evergreens, short evergreens, and native evergreens. So it'll be a quick list. I think I'm going to do that right up to the bottom of the hour. So I'll dedicate an entire section just to that. Things that look good now, things you can plant right now, no matter the weather. They were right outside in that storm. What was that, 2 weeks ago? We had a cold front that just came through, got down to, I think, 19, 20 degrees at my house. I think that's what actually took all the foliage. It just said, okay, that's it. We're not turning color anymore. We're going to drop all our leaves. We're done. We're hibernating. But the evergreens, it allowed them to have more light. They actually shine better. They look better now that we've had some cold. We won't even go over the winter blooming flowers, the kales, the cabbages, the lettuces. They really look good. So they're loving this weather. So some plants actually prefer this time of year. They prefer being planted this time of year. One highlight, in fact, maybe I can cover just the shade shrubs. You'll see a crop come into nurseries this time of year. You'll only find them this time of year. And it's your winter blooming camellias. There's a hardy variety of camellia, and this will delight the hearts of all you Californians. I mean, you grow those tropical camellias that are just so stunning. Those, most of them won't grow here. But there's a series called Ice Princess camellias. They're a shrub instead of a tree. They get about, maybe chest high if you're really lucky, but they get chubby. They're round, really thick, glossy green leaf. And they're, with this cold spell, they actually look better. The richness, the color gets deeper on them. But they're loaded up with flower buds, much like a rhododendron or azalea could be that way. There's a hardy variety of both of those. But camellia you'll find only this time of year. I get 100 of them in, and that's it. Once they're gone, there are no more because of ag laws and just the way the crop works. But those are things that you could put in a container by the front door, and they'll start blooming probably February, March. Real late winter, very early spring is when their bloom cycle is. And they just look great. A companion shade plant, these prefer some shade, mainly in June. That hot, if you put a camellia out midday in June, so 10 to 2, it's going to struggle. You can't water it enough. It's going to get brown leaves. And a little bit more like a morning sun to late afternoon sun to shade, loves it, does great. Hollies are the same way. Of course, hollies are famous this time of year because of their red berries and that festive holly leaf. People take cuttings and bring them inside and make decorations out of them. We take one home and just put it on the patio or out by the front entrance. We don't even plant it. We just leave it there in the pot, and it just greets people going, I'm so happy you're here. You put a few twinkle lights on them, and wow, it's easy decoration. We don't bring it indoors. We just leave it right out there, and it likes the cold. It prefers being planted when it's chilly out. And so it would be happy right now in a container by that front covered dark patio, a north-facing door. It would love that. And so just keep growing. Now, if you're doing containers, I mentioned watering once, a couple times a month. That's those things in the ground. If you've got raised beds and you're growing some flowers, pansies, snapdragons, the winter blooming things, dusty millers, or if you've got containers where you're planting, let's say the camellia I just mentioned, or I've got gardenias growing in containers outside. Now, those things I water more often. Right now I'm watering every 5 days. And that cold snap that we had, whenever that was, 2 weeks ago, I made sure I irrigated everything in my containers, things that were raised up and more exposed. I made sure I watered those things before the cold hit us. I want to make sure my plants are plump and chubby and just happy and hydrated before the cold comes. If you do that, they go through that cold snap like champions. They actually look better after the cold than before. The colors will come out. They'll start to set blossoms. They're still actively growing right now. And so I looked at manzanita. They're flushing some new growth. It's amazing to watch. So we just the ground doesn't freeze where things shut down. The beauty is you can enjoy that. You can be outside to watch all that new growth. Take a close look at your deciduous trees. Did you see the buds, the flower buds? They're ginormous. Underneath the bark, they're starting to swell. They're starting to, next spring's flowers and leaves are already starting to show up. That doesn't shut down just because they lost their leaves. They continue to grow because we're so mild. Be right back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio with your garden questions.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
The holidays are here in the Christmas City, bringing family and friends together and those chilly winter winds. While you're decorating the outside, don't forget to brighten your inside with exotic holiday plants from Waters. Beautiful poinsettias and Christmas cactus are coming to town, grown exclusively for Waters in colors you won't find anywhere else. Unique, vibrant, and guaranteed to warm up even the dreariest of winter days. Check your list twice for all the holiday plants, only found at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our Sunshine Daydream Abelia.
Pink and white flowers continually cover this brightly yellow shrub. Very pretty.
Requires less maintenance than all the other cultivars with a compact, creamy foliage.
At $34, it's a garden designer's dream bloomer that takes heat, wind, and blooms even longer with a bit of midday shade.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. For people who love easy perennials, love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we have Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions, just what's going on. And there's still a lot of garden questions coming in. Not as many as peak of spring, because some folks are traveling or doing whatever, but some good questions, some things I fielded, so that's great. And a lot of like I just helped a customer with ground covers.
Oh.
Her land's new home up Copper Basin. The land just looks
Barren.
boring. She wanted some plants just to cover the ground, but didn't want grass. She wanted shrubs. We showed her some things. So lots of good questions coming in. Welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Well, thank you.
So what's the festivities are over. Thanksgiving's done. All beat up with
You can
more
take
turkey.
a breath now and go, Thanksgiving's over. But now we're on the mad rush to Christmas. It's that, 4 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas?
It's busy for us just because we have, for us, it's a whole nother season. I mean, the garden center business, because you've got this huge wave, like hundreds of poinsettias show up, hundreds of these holiday plants. They're seasonal plants. They're one-time wonders. They offload. We've already had to restock living trees, the spruce and pine, and just there's this wave that pulsates. And it's like a spike as people start shopping. Not Cyber Monday or Black Friday. It's just I want my house to be pretty.
Sure.
And so they come in and get a poinsettia for friends or just trees. Cut trees are here.
Right.
That alone, to have trees without roots. They've been harvested like corn. You bring them in. You got to drill them, get them processed, set them all up, spray them so they last through the whole season. Just an extra. It's different work and it's a peak
It's more
of work.
compact because you do it all in 4 weeks or less, whereas spring you're stretching it out over 3-4 months. So.
Right. And it's more rhythmic spring. Here it's out of the sync, and so I don't know. I love it though. It's a change of pace.
I like it. I'd like to take the time up to Thanksgiving and really enjoy that. And then you can kind of go, okay, now I'm ready. Christmas, let's go shopping and get all that stuff done.
Yep.
But Thanksgiving's good. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Stuffing and
Really?
pecan pie.
Well,
I could skip
you
turkey.
never get
I don't like
pecan
turkey. And then I don't know. Those are my. I love yams. You don't eat yams very often, or
That is
sweet.
true.
I love sweet potatoes. I'm a Southern boy, so sweet potatoes are a big thing. In fact, we didn't in the South. You don't have pumpkin pie. You have sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
It's better, sweeter, nicer.
I would disagree with you.
Yeah, well, as a Western gal, you would.
I don't know. We were out with friends and we were all discussing what our favorite traditional Thanksgiving food is. And I always think broccoli casserole because that's what our family does. She goes, oh, we do a corn casserole. And I'm like, corn casserole? Who does a corn casserole?
Midwest.
But yeah, everybody has their own unique family things that are special.
What questions do we have?
Oh, you want questions?
We're 4 minutes in. We're talking about Thanksgiving.
Well,
no one cares.
You're right. Nobody cares. All right. Christina wants to know, she's in Prescott Valley, will an Aleppo pine grow in Prescott Valley?
It will grow in Prescott Valley, and it will die in Prescott Valley. It'll die pretty quick. So that's more of a lowland, so Black Canyon City and south, the desert thing. It's pretty pine, fast growing. But there's some disease that carry over from the oaks over to that, Goldwater pines, Eldericas, Lippos, where it'll grow for a while and then it gets a rust. It just has some problems. So we don't sell them at Waters Garden Center. I know you can buy them at other places, and I encourage you to do that so you get burned and realize that should have never been sold up here. It's more of a Phoenix desert thing. Right. Here, a better pine would be Austrian pines. There's a beautiful pinyon pine, the one that you get the nuts from. That actually grows up here quite well and very hardy. Of course, ponderosa pines we've got in stock. Vanderwolf is probably very similar to a Lippo pine, but it's got a bluer color to it. The color's different, but the softness is kind of similar, and it's shorter. It doesn't get as big. It's really for petite yards. It'd be perfect. Those that travel a lot, if you're going to kill a Vanderwolf pine, it'll be from overwatering. And those are just a few. There's quite a few others that you can pick from as well that are far better choices and will not be the problem child that you don't want to plant something and have a problem 5 years out.
True.
You just don't want to do that.
True. So that's Aleppo, Goldwater, Mondale?
Mondale, yeah.
Yeah. So if
They're
you're
all
seeing
related.
those, probably best
desert.
to stay away from.
That's a box store. A temporary, someone that's shipping stuff up here from the desert because they ran out. They aren't selling it down there today, so they're throwing it up at us here. They're trying to get rid of their inventory. I don't care what the price is; it's not worth the money and the time and energy you spend in the yard. Right.
Okay. Our next question is from Tom. He wants to know when he can start pruning his fruit trees. People are already, when can I prune?
Every week.
And his other question is, they're 10 to 15 years old. He wants to know if he needs to water through the winter.
So we did cover that first of the show. So yes, you're watering a couple times a month.
Even
through
mature
winter.
trees.
Even mature trees. At least once a month. A deep, deep soak. I mean, get the entire root ball soaked. Especially if you want fruit next year. So if it gets winter stressed, it's real warm and dry, and then you get a real cold snap, it'll kill off the flower buds. That's your fruit for next year. It might not kill it, but you just won't have fruit. And so if you ever wondered why, dang it, fruited last year, not this year, what's going on? Usually it comes down to watering. Pruning is done right now in the mountains after the new year. Don't rush it. Let it get colder. We want all those codling moths and clear-winged wasps and all the problem child, all the things that devour fruit trees. You don't want to open up a cut and allow them in and let them to feast on your fruit trees. The sap is still flowing on fruit trees. In another month, it'll be colder, more sustained cold, and those plants will hibernate more, so the sap will stop flowing. Now you can make a cut and not have to worry about insects and disease getting into those cuts. Well, I can put pruning paint on them. Well, if what we find is pruning paint almost seals problems in sometimes. You're better off waiting till it's cold. Then you don't need any pruning paint. Just make the cut, walk away, and enjoy your fruit trees.
Definitely.
Yeah, fertilize. If you're going to have a spring blooming thing, if you haven't fertilized this fall, you've blundered terribly. You need to give it some all-purpose plant food right now, right away, because it's using food. It's still, the plant is still actively growing.
Right. People forget that. They think, it lost its leaves, don't need to do anything. But the root system is still active.
So the leaf buds are still growing.
Yeah. Okay. This next one is a tough one. This is from Robin. Her neighbor moved in.
I'm not going to get in the middle of that. I don't even know where it's going.
Well, it's actually a good question. So the neighbor accidentally on purpose, and we don't know, cut down 2 of her large trees.
You don't accidentally cut down trees.
So the question is there a way to determine the value on a tree that size, or do you have to go with like replacement value? I mean, how do you determine the value of those?
There is a way
to
determine that. So if it's a valuable tree, if it's a cottonwood, there's no value there. If it's a willow, no value, no matter how big. It's just they're weeds. Elm trees, no real value. But if it's a ponderosa pine, a big pinyon pine, a beautiful alligator juniper, there is some serious value there that can be in the thousands of dollars. And you can't buy one. You can't replace it like kind.
Right.
So a fast-growing thing, you sort of can. A old, slow-growing evergreen, so that's an insurance claim. There's folks like your dad. He makes side money on going to court and doing insurance claim stuff, figuring out value of trees. It depends on the variety, depends on the size, and that kind of stuff. If you can get a few $100 out of them, I'd say you're good to go. Don't bother. If all they want to do is put a 15-gallon plant in for you, I might fight that one and go for more because their insurance and their deductibles have to cover that. So that's a blunder.
Right.
They should have known where the property line was. You can cut anything over in your yard,
right?
But you can't cut down someone's tree that's in their yard coming over into your yard.
The branches.
You can cut the branches. You can't cut the tree. That's state law. So make sure you know stuff, folks, before you start powering up the chainsaw.
That's wise anytime.
Be right back with Lisa Waters Lane and Ken Lane and the Mountain Gardeners right after this.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our Arizona Gold Euonymus.
An excellent choice for colored hedges and as tough as they come.
This evergreen displays bold gold, head-high foliage that grows even thicker when sheared.
A single shrub makes a bold statement for just $27, but in rows they make excellent visual and sound barriers.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love bold gold hedges, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our red clusterberry cotoneaster.
Stunning white flowers cover the shrub in spring, then form red berries.
A large evergreen that is tough, easy to grow, and tolerates poor soil.
So thick when sheared, it's the perfect privacy for hot tubs, secluded entertainment areas, and prying eyes for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red-berried cotoneaster, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
So Lisa and I attend a number of Christmas parties. We've already got 2 or 3. I can't keep up with them. So between Rotary and the Lodge and old friends that our kids grew up together and just we're looking forward to getting together with family and friends. It's a fun time. An idea, here's something that I do that just works. I mean, it's like magic. It trumps all your other friends, all your other family members. You can take a bottle of wine to the party or whatever and just share or a pie or whatever. But if you take a plant, a holiday plant, a festive plant, a thing that's blooming kind of plant, this time of year when the landscape has shut down, has gone dormant, and there's not as much flower, not as much color. Yes, the evergreens are nice. Yes, we try to dress it up with bows and lights. But the inside plants, they've stopped growing too because it's gotten dark. The days are gotten short. Outside, the pansies are growing. That's okay. The violas, they're looking pretty good. But there's just not as much. If you take just an interesting poinsettia, a succulent that's got flowers on it, there's all types of colorful interior kind of plants or house plants you can take as a housewarming gift, and just they're like under $10. And you take them, I just was thinking of you when I was at Waters Garden Center and just got this for you. Thanks for being a great hostess. I'm telling you, that gets more attention, more fun. It's just fun. It's a talk of the party and so easy. We got some, we call them Mickey's Minis. They're Waters Minis. They're miniature 2-inch plants. They're cute little things. You hold them in one hand easily. They go on a desk or on a shelf or someplace very easily. They go on a windowsill. They're just cute. They're under from $5 to $10. You take one of those, go, here, I'm just thinking of you. I could have brought a bottle of wine, but I was thinking of this. And you give them a decorative lucky bamboo or a little tiny miniature poinsettia. It's cute. It's easy. And you just score extra points. I can't emphasize that enough. It's just so easy. And for yourself, we just had Thanksgiving dinner. Christmas is coming up, or Hanukkah, or these other holidays that happen between now and the end of the year. Those minis are so cute for table decorations. You don't have to do anything. Just put them on they're already in a holiday pot. They're holiday colors. We put holiday sprinkles and holiday bows and holiday, like the poinsettias have a decorative ivy coming out of them. They're very cute. They're like $9.99, and you can put 2 or 3 of them out there, and you're all decorated. And they'll keep growing after the holiday season's over. So it's the talk. I'm telling you, it's just so easy to make, just to lift the hearts of those around you with a simple plant, an office mate or family member that's not feeling so well. It's just an easy way to lift the spirits. Some folks, this holiday spirit is a high, and some it's a low. It's just a hard time to get through. So letting people know you're thinking about them, I think that makes a difference. I know a card is nice, but a card with a plant that's in bloom that screams holidays is better. It doesn't have to be a big fancy gift. I think it's just the thought that you're thinking of your friends or family, your neighbors makes a big difference. My neighbors love us because we take poinsettias to them. It's an easy thing. I don't do cards or do anything fancy. Just here you go. Just thinking of you. Thanks for being a great neighbor. Boom. And it creates neighborhood. Positive neighbors looking after neighbor. You personally can have a difference, make a difference in your neighborhood, especially if it's someone new. They just moved in. You haven't had a chance. What an easy way to take them a cute little poinsettia and go, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. Sorry I haven't had a chance to knock on the door and bring cookies, but here's a plant. So it's not as hard as we think to be neighborly. And I think in today's society where we're just so many folks, they're off their meds. Let's just face it. They're aggressive on the road. They're mean in their driveway. They beat the dog sometimes, I think. I'm not sure. But it's easy to spread that positive, uplifting, neighborly community message, which Prescott is famous for. But especially those that are new widowed, they lost a loved one. I think we need to protect those folks more. And it doesn't just have to be family. Let's face it, family is more than just bloodlines anymore. Family is the people you hang out at church or at your Lions Club or Kiwanis or Rotary or at the lodge and the Pinnacle Club. They can actually be family where they're looking after each other more than your own kids do. So they've got busy lives as well. So I don't know. I didn't really mean to go off on that tangent. I just wanted to talk about cute little mini plants and how they lift the heart. But I think that's a reason they lift the heart more this time of year than any other time of year. And so there's so many commercials coming at us, so many party invites, you're hearing what your friends are doing. And just to have someone go out of their way and give something as special as a little $5 plant that's cute and bubbly and cheerful, I think that's a good thing. And that's why it means more this time of year than others. Lisa Waterslane coming in the studio with her garden tips. We'll be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
These tulips are delicious.
We're the cutest mule deers, and we just ate Mrs. Smith's flowers.
We avoid Mrs. Johnson's because she has native plants from Waters Garden Center.
She's got bright red sage, sunny blanket flower, hot pink gara, and a lot more.
They grow like crazy in local soil, and she hardly ever has to water them.
Hummingbirds and bees love natives, but they taste awful to deer.
I sure hope Mrs. Smith doesn't figure that out.
Go native, Waters Garden Center. And we are back with Lisa Waterslane in the studio. She comes in and just shares her garden tips, just what's going on in her gardens, in her garden head, her garden nursery, her garden world. She actually runs Waters Garden Center. She knows all the plants, does the buying for trees and shrubs, and has a direct link to the garden, just pulse, what's going on in the mountains of Arizona. So I think it's valuable to capture this on film, on audio. Sorry.
I'm like, please, no film.
Yeah, I was just doing a ugly sweater commercial.
Yes, I saw that. It was pretty.
It's hilarious. We went down to repurposed a ugly sweater, got an ugly hat, and we were going, hey,
it truly is ugly. I'll have to
but
say.
The commercials are awesome. We're going to air on Instagram,
true.
and I'm going to be a rock star on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, probably didn't have to go far, just your own closet to find a.
I don't have. What do you? That's mean.
You got rid of your sweater.
Yeah,
you had some sweaters from like the 80s.
Yeah, back in the 80s.
No, that you still had.
Yeah, I still wish I had them. They're back in style now.
And the kids and I were like, oh, those just need to go away.
I think I've got some sweaters in my closet that actually have tags on them still. So I bought them last year. So waiting for it to get cold enough.
Was
to
it
wear
cold
them.
enough last year? Was
No.
it? Let's hope for snow this year.
So what do you got for us this week? What kind of garden advice you want to share?
Well,
Make us all smart.
All smart. I'll work on it. I was going to cover evergreen shrubs, and I know we've kind of hit on this before, but people listen at different times, and a lot of new people moving in who thought a lot of their shrubs were evergreen, but now realize, oh,
Oops.
darn, those shrubs aren't evergreen.
In California, they stay green and they bloom year-round. What's going on?
Yeah, so just totally different around here. We definitely have a lot of shrubs that go dormant in the wintertime. So some of your yards can look pretty darn drab by the time you have brown rock with brown sticks and a brown paint. You don't have a lot of excitement going on in there.
That's true. Lots of tan. I like the tan. Not brown.
Tan.
Like beige. I want the whole yard. The house beige, the shingles beige, the driveway beige. I want the landscape beige. I want the rock. I mean, they can look like, they can be truly ugly.
Pretty moonscape-ish,
Yeah.
definitely. So throwing even just a few evergreens in there, oh my goodness, can make a huge difference. And now is a really good time to shop those evergreens because you can see what they're going to look like.
True, yeah, good point.
They're going to have their winter color, the winter look. You're not going to be surprised next year when it rolls around. You'll know what they're going to look like. So I just kind of went through the nursery yard and jotted down a few of my favorites that are looking pretty good right now.
Can I add some of my favorites too?
This is my segment.
Oh, dang. Okay. It's all you. It's all you. I'll be a good follower.
Oh, sure. That'll happen. So right now we have some really pretty hawthorns in. So 2 different varieties. We have the ballerina hawthorn, which gets about 2 foot tall and about 3 foot wide. Really nice for those small yards or small spaces to put things into. It also gets kind of almost a burgundy-ish color in the wintertime. Really, really pretty. In the spring, it has a lovely pink blossom onto it. Really
Very
nice
fragrant.
shrub.
I mean, it's
Very
a fragrant. But knee high, you figure most of them. There's some that get bigger.
There's
but
ballerina shorter than Indian hawthorn. Indian princess, I think, it's about 3-4 foot tall. And then there's even some that get a little taller than that.
Yeah.
So nice one to put in. Usually very animal resistant. So great for that. And drought hardy as
very
well.
drought hardy, yeah. If we would put those into commercial settings, like
Right.
going into a hotel or a restaurant, because when it blooms, you pick up that fragrance. It looks good year round. So it'd be great by driveway on a residential side, or going up to the front door, or outlining the rock lawn that's out front. It'd be
Right.
perfect for that.
No, I agree. The other one is Eleagnis, which is silverberry. And there's kind of 2 different varieties of that. There's is it a true native?
It's a
the
true
green
native.
one? Okay.
Yep, true native.
But actually a really pretty native. Some natives you look at and you're like,
that's a native.
It's a
That's
native.
pretty ugly. Yeah.
But this one is really quite attractive with its green leaves. The other really terrific thing about it is in the fall, it blooms. You don't really see the blooms that much, but fragrant. Oh my goodness. It'll knock your socks off walking by it. Tough as nails. I think it even grows. Does it grow down as low as Phoenix?
Oh, I think the high desert it'll grow.
High desert. I was thinking maybe it was more Camp Verde.
That's perfect. Yeah, it'd grow there.
So it has a wide range of where it can grow. Animal resistant.
I would say
just
animal
tough.
proof.
Yeah. And then it has a cousin, which is a variegated one. So it's yellow and green. So really nice in the winter when everything's kind of drab. I like seeing some of that variegated color in the wintertime.
I think so many folks have dark, mocha colored rock is in right now. So the darker, the better. It radiates heat. A lot of them break down pretty fast, so they deteriorate pretty quick. But they're hard to landscape in because you put a dark green plant with a dark green or dark brown rock, and all of a sudden it just has more of the same.
Right.
So to take some of those contrasting, blues, the golds, the whiter type of things, to have some of those come in and to accent that rock or that backdrop, that's what design is all about. And so I think some of these plants are tough. They'll take the heat. They look good. You can really design with them some style into your landscape.
Same with the old gold junipers. I love old gold junipers because that new growth is kind of more of that yellow gold color, really stands out in the yard. So that's another good one to put out there.
So L.A. Agnes, the gold variegated variety, works great. It's a nice contrast. And so does the old gold. And there's several like that. There's spireas, all kinds of stuff. Here's a gold juniper upright, gold juniper spreading.
There's actually a Deodora that has the gold on it. That one's really pretty.
Yep. So great contrast plant.
Pyracantha. Pyracanthas are looking gorgeous right now because they have those orange or red berries on them. Pretty. They just really stand out. The Nandinas, the ones that have produced the berries, standard Nandina or bamboo, heavenly bamboo, is another one where it has the red berries on it. So those just really stand out nicely in the wintertime.
Your heavenly bamboo or Nandina out in the front yard, our going down the driveway, those big pots.
Right.
Have you seen how red they've gotten since the cold came? They aren't deciduous. They won't lose their leaves, but they'll turn this bright red color. And if they're in full sun, they get even brighter red. It's very striking. Yeah. And it's unique to the shorter varieties. Some of the taller, your domesticas, the old-fashioned Nandinas, they don't do that as much. They look more like bamboo.
Yeah.
That's the name. Heavenly bamboo is their common name. Yeah. So I think some of these new varieties coming out, they're tougher. Animals don't eat them, and they're brighter. They have bigger sets of berries, brighter foliage. It's a great plant for you. Every yard should have at least one.
Our neighbor down the road has 3 Sienna Sunrise, and they're like screaming red right now.
Yeah.
This conditions must have just been perfect for light and cold and all that.
And they won't drop their leaves.
No.
They keep that red right through for 4 or 5 months. It's amazing.
Amazing.
I think the other one that did that is the spreading Mahonia. That's up in the upper greenhouse. The repens. The spreading kind of creepy. Only gets up maybe ankle high. Spreads out. Native plant. In the shade, it stays green. But when it's a chill in the air and it's in sun, it gets this bright. Just intense red. The foliage turns. I noticed too, if you take a close look, the flower buds are starting to form. So they'll bloom like in March into February.
Yeah.
Bright yellow flower.
Bright yellow.
Yeah. things are happening.
Oh, yeah.
You just they're in slow motion. They're slower.
My other favorite is the Cotoneaster parnii. Puts on the red berry. Its other name is red clusterberry, Cotoneaster. Another really good, just tough plant. It takes a lot of abuse, the heat, the lack of water, and all that, and just keeps on going.
That's a good one out like Williamson Valley, Chino Valley, the valley, open exposed areas, but especially where you've got heavy pressure from antelope and deer, they don't like Cotoneaster. No. So they leave all the spreading ones and the big upright ones. If it says Cotoneaster, The animals, leave it alone. I mean, it looks delicious. Must have a taste or something they just don't care for. So great suggestions on winter evergreens. You can put in the ground now, and they'll shine, look good for you. Be right back with Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Wondering why my garden looks amazing? Well, that's personal. The personal garden shopper service at Waters Garden Center, that is. Before talking with my personal shopper, I had no idea which plants would be best for me. But now my garden is bursting with flowers and buzzing with hummingbirds. Just go to watersgardencenter.com, click on Shop, and choose Personal Garden Shopper. A Waters Garden expert will pick the perfect plants for you, personally. The Personal Garden Shopper, only at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
The Grinch went to Waters and couldn't believe his eyes. There were cut trees in every shape and size. He could take one home and then toss it after the season. Good! And then he saw living Christmas trees that grow and grow. So it seemed a good reason. A beautiful living tree, and have Waters plant it because of his bad knees. Have the merriest of Christmas from all of us here at Waters Garden Center. Just over the break, I was jotting down some quick notes on other evergreens we may have missed with the last segment with Lisa. So I had a couple of them. Manzanita. We've got some manzanita, tall ones and spreading ones. So there's Knick-Knick, which is a ground cover manzanita, evergreen, red bark, beautiful. There's a new variety of manzanita called Austin Griffin. It's the same manzanita. So it's just like our tall native manzanita that grows wild throughout the mountains of Arizona. Has a touch bigger leaf, gets up head high, has a striking, very red bark, very stunning looking. So it'd be a great accent. Again, if you're going to plant these natives, make sure you probably don't even want those on a drip system. You want to water those by hand because you'll be prone to overdoing it. So manzanita is they just barely sip any water and they keep on going. So that's one. But if you plant it now, perfectly fine. They're beautiful. They're growing. They're actually flushing new leaves. If you plant them now, just make sure you're watering them, I don't know, a couple times, 3 times a month, something like that. Don't let the ground completely go bone dry, but let it go dry. Would be perfectly fine. That'd be a good companion, too, with those red-tip photinias, the cotoneasters, the big privets. So you folks from California love your green leaf privets, so or Texas privets. There's several names, but just a big evergreen white flower kind of privet. It's a good companion with all of those. Big, head-high type of evergreens. If you need a screening plant, those would all be good choices. We got them separated out there in the nursery by here's the privacy stuff, here's I want to soften up the windowsills, here's the ground cover, I want to soften up the rock lawns. I jotted down some notes for some more native things and some that you may not have thought about. The whole yucca series. There's several. Yuccas are evergreen. They don't die back like a grass. They keep that green or that blue stem or foliage. Yes, the flower fades. They've been in bloom with red flowers or yellow flowers or white flowers. But you trim that flower stem off and you leave the rest of the foliage up. So some examples of that are brake light yucca. It's the shortest of all the yuccas. It gets up maybe 1.5 feet, maybe a foot tall with this crazy red flower. It's like a brake light. That's the name. Of course, it came from the red yuccas, which are bigger. They get about hip high and have dozens of red flowers. Again, cut those flowers off, keep the foliage intact. Adam's needle, which is a red variegated, very striking type of yucca. Very bright colored with a white flower it comes up with. And then soft leaf yucca is the original. That's the one your grandparents grew. It's coming back. It's now the rock star. It's amazing how old things come back into style. But soft leaf yucca, that's the big one. It'll grow in clumps as tall as you and I with flowers, just white flowers that cover the whole top of this thing. So it's a very drought-hardy, evergreen type of yucca. And then another one that's companion planted with that kind of looks the same. There's a wild grass that grows out in the valley. So Prescott Valley, Paulden, Ash Fork, Seligman, you're seeing this evergreen grass. It's called bear grass. It's a great native. Get it established, cut it off of all care. It just goes by itself. Truly a wild grass. The big blunder most folks make coming in from, let's say, the Midwest, they'll go through and cut this grass back like they would their coral forester grass or pampas grass, and then it looks butchered. It takes years for it to recover. This one, you leave that green foliage up. You just cut that white flower stem off of it because it's a bloomer. It has a bloom instead of I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it. It might be a plume. I think it's actually a flower, though. But bear grass is a great native evergreen that looks great in the yard. It's so easy care. This is one, plant it, take that cruise down to wherever, Barcelona, out to the Greece. We're gone for 3 weeks. It'll come back. It'll still be alive and looking good. Right through winter. In garden centers, we load up on these evergreens because people aren't buying the deciduous stuff. Rarely. Some of the landscapers will come in and put a new home package together, but consumers, they're coming in, residential, backyard, do-it-yourself folks, they're coming in for things that look good, and the evergreens truly look good. So we double down. We bring more, like I've got more bear grass now than I do in the peak of spring because they just look so good. So it's a good time to plant those. Your shade lovers, I'd mentioned, were camellias, hollies, I use yew. You folks from the East Coast, you're really familiar with Hicks yew, spreading yew. There's several varieties, but it's a conifer. It has a needle to it. Gets up. Hicks yew gets very tall. I've got one that's 2 stories high. It's softening up this great big stucco wall, and it's beautiful right now. Just solid green. And then it can get little red berries up and down, kind of like a holly, although not as many and it's not as showy. Hollies, there's nothing like a holly for its berries, the way that shows off. But a yew is a great plant. And if you're out in the forest, we got this heavy pressure. You've got in that wildland interface, we got javelina and just deer and elk coming at you. They don't bother you. So it's a great choice for more of that shaded area. So those are my shade suggestions. A vine, there are very, very few vines that hold their foliage in the mountains of Arizona. There's 3 that hold their foliage. One is Hall's honeysuckle. The yellow-flowered honeysuckle, as a kid, used to pull out the stamens and suck the nectar. That one holds its foliage. Unless we go close to 0 degrees, it's pretty rare. It holds that foliage right through winter. Great plant for the mountains. Very drought hardy. We use it to retain hillsides, hold the landscape, erosion control. Ivy, like English ivy. We've got some big, tall 5 gallons. They're tall, almost as tall as you and I. You plant that, you spread it out, take it off the stake, and you start training those tendrils to go where you want, or up a wall or wherever, and it just starts to creep and grow, and super tough. Animals don't eat it again. And then one of my personal favorites, the one I'm growing right now currently, is akebia, or 5-leaf akebia. It's maybe something you haven't heard of before. It's a fairly new plant. It's a vine. It needs something to kind of grow up, so a trellis or something, or chain link fence. But it holds that foliage. And I found when we lived in Skull Valley, we're right there in Kirkland Creek. We're right there where all the animals come. Animals don't bother it. I grew it in Prescott Valley when we lived out there in full sun. In Skull Valley, I grew it in shade. It did great. Great evergreen for here. Very tough plant. So 5-leaf akebia are your 3 evergreen vines that can be planted now. And they look good year-round. So, boy, I could keep going. Right? What else I got here? Of course, Nandina, she mentioned. Great one. Hawthorns, Pyracantha, Vinca. I got them all. There we go. So there's my list of the top evergreens you can plant now that just look good. Oh, I had 2. Mugo pine, if you want a pine needle. So the cabin kind of feelings. You want more of a cabin pine feeling. Or maybe you're not in the pines, but you wish you had more pines. Mugo pine is a low-growing pine. Gets up maybe hip high, kind of spreads, nice ball shape, perfect, cute, nice pine, not tree, but pine bush. Does really great. And then a cousin to that would be Feelin' Blue deodar cedar. Now, most folks know deodar cedars as this huge tree. Gets up 50 feet tall, 25 foot, swooping branches. Is way overkill for most yards. This Feelin' Blue is a ground cover dwarf variety of that plant. It only gets up, with age, maybe hip high and kind of spreads out and flows out through the yard. So I use Feelin' Blue deodar cedar by the pond. And so it flows on the back side of that pond, and then it actually flows into the water some. It doesn't like that. The needles tend to rot off, so when it hits the water, it kind of stops growing right there. But boy, does it look good to have that blue flowing color right next to the pond as the water, right where the water feature is. It's really pretty and really tough. So there's a lot of plants. Don't think that I know we got Thanksgiving and holiday parties, but if your yard is boring, you can plant some stuff. If you've got some ugly looking stuff in the yard, now's the time. Make the call. Get rid of it. Put something that looks great out there in winter, in spring, in summer, in fall. And it's a good time to plant. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our Arizona Gold Euonymus.
An excellent choice for colored hedges and as tough as they come.
This evergreen displays bold gold, head-high foliage that grows even thicker when sheared.
A single shrub makes a bold statement for just $27, but in rows they make excellent visual and sound barriers.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love bold gold hedges, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our red clusterberry cotoneaster.
Stunning white flowers cover the shrub in spring, then form red berries.
A large evergreen that is tough, easy to grow, and tolerates poor soil.
So thick when sheared, it's the perfect privacy for hot tubs, secluded entertainment areas, and prying eyes for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red-berried cotoneaster, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
Now, next week, I'm going to go deep into how to pick a really great, those cut greens, whether it's a garland, a wreath, a cut tree, whatever it is. Not just that, but we'll go deep into what to look for, because you don't want to have a plant that you take home, bring inside. It's a living tree, put it on the stand, and then it sheds like 2 weeks later. It becomes this fire hazard. There's some real quick tips. I'll probably take one segment, just focus on that. We've got quite a few of them just came in this week, and lots of lots. They've filled up. They're sitting out there in full sun. You need to be aware as a consumer what to look for. Whether it's a wreath for that front door, a swag, we got fresh garlands coming out. How do you pick just the freshest of the bunch? You'll be a pro. I also want to go over, if you've just been to too many parties or you had too many family and friends, too much togetherness time, you just need to get out and decompress. Come in and visit. Say hi. I mean, the garden center's beautiful. The inside of the store is like a tropical forest. I mean, it just you just want to see parrots and cockatoos and floating around and talking to you. It's that kind of feeling to it. Lots of holiday plants are in, lots of red. The store almost glows or pulsates in Christmas colors. But it's good just to, you don't even have to buy anything. Just we hear a lot of folks go, oh, I didn't really know what to do. I'm coming in just to get my therapy session. And we encourage that. We want that. So we'll take time to chit-chat with you, show you the latest, greatest new thing that's never been seen before. Yes, we are introducing some new poinsettias, some of those Mickey's Minis, the miniature plants. You can take a little $5 plant, a little African violet, take it home and go, God, I just feel better. So for just a little bit, put it on a desk and put it by the kitchen counter and just look at it every morning and sip your coffee and go, oh, I'm just so happy with something blooming in my house. And then, of course, we just had some stunning, they look like saguaro cactus. They're taller than I am, some of them, multi-stemmed succulents. These are big boys. They're expensive. They're like $400 or whatever, but they are, they're just wow factor. You just want to touch them, and you can in between the ribs, but they are cactus for indoors, for an office or a living room, someone that's got a southwestern feel, or they just want something that they want to water it, like 3 times a year, and it thrives. So I took one home. It was so pretty. I took one home and put it in my where I do all my writing. I had a palm tree kind of suffered and died. I actually overwatered it, and so it root rotted on me. So I'm going to take this thing home, put it in that same big pot in the corner. It's going to be gorgeous, and it just helps me when I'm writing garden columns. It helps me to have something living and breathing. When I'm reading, I like to have something that's alive in the room, not just sterile, dim light bulb over your book. I want it to feel garden-esque. So my windows overlook the gardens where I type, do most of my writing. It inspires me. It helps me to get past that writer's block. I'm writing 2 garden columns a week, and press releases and everything else. So you got to be creative. And so if you're just kind of tired and flat and you just haven't quite had enough coffee, the gardens help to inspire you. I think inside, even more so this time of year than outside. So it helps, that's me personally, but I think that's any of us. You feel better. You've got some living, breathing things in your yard. I know the Christmas trees, that fake plastic thing that gathers dust is out in the living room. That doesn't count. A living thing in the rooms, it helps you breathe better at night in your bedroom. There's a lot of benefits to having something living in your house, not just creatively, but health-wise, your lungs. I'll do a show on that sometime. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners, come in, say you heard the show, and say hi.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
The holidays are here in the Christmas City, bringing family and friends together and those chilly winter winds. While you're decorating the outside, don't forget to brighten your inside with exotic holiday plants from Waters. Beautiful poinsettias and Christmas cactus are coming to town, grown exclusively for Waters in colors you won't find anywhere else. Unique, vibrant, and guaranteed to warm up even the dreariest of winter days. Check your list twice for all the holiday plants, only found at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
The Grinch went to Waters and couldn't believe his eyes. There were cut trees in every shape and size. He could take one home and then toss it after the season. Good! And then he saw living Christmas trees that grow and grow. So it seemed a good reason. A beautiful living tree, and have Waters plant it because of his bad knees. Have the merriest of Christmas from all of us here at Waters Garden Center.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.